Great. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Patrick, for being here and being willing to share some of your experiences with us. We're really honored to be able to speak with you. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you and then wanted to give you a few minutes to present yourself, give a brief background about what you do currently, but also how you got to where you are professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the invitation first, because I really think it's an amazing opportunity for students in les arts métiers, basically to learn a little bit of what's going out there and how basically people transition from school to the professional experience. So what I'm hoping to do in the next, I think we target something like 40 minutes, right, Rose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what I will try to give you in the next 40 minutes is to give you a perspective of how it is outside France and working in the US, and basically how I made it up to here, and hopefully I can give you a taste of how it is to work internationally and how to get there. So I have a few slides to introduce that. Maybe I can start on that. What I intend to give you to give you today is really a perspective of how I saw things, what was basically my way of working in the US. So it's a little bit biased. It's a little bit honest. Also, you will see. Hopefully, I can give you how I made it and how things are going on. So before we start, I think, guys, you are a little bit familiar with the American culture. So it's the 26th of November today. So first of all, I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. So even if those days are a little bit non-conventional with the COVID, Thanksgiving is usually a big family and friends gathering here in the US. So I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. So who am I? So let's start a little bit to give you a little bit of my background. So if you didn't guess it so far, I'm French. So even being a couple of years in the US, I didn't lose my accent. So I'm originally from a small town in Alsace that is called Andelot. So you can see in the bottom right corner. So it's an amazing region if you like hiking or white wine. I think it's one of the best places on earth to be. So why did I put two flags? So since I was born, basically I'm this strange mix. So my mom is Polish, my dad is French. So we were used to travel a lot between France and Poland when I was young. And so since the beginning, I was always exposed to a kind of cultural diversity. And this is something that as soon as you will start in your international career, it's something that you need to be cautious about. I have a few slides after and a few points that I want to exchange with you, because it's something that is extremely important. Whatever the field in which you will be working on, you will be exposed to different cultures, you will be exposed to different point of views. So having a sense of how do you perceive things and how the others are perceiving things, I think it's something that that is very important. So about myself, so a little bit. So my dad has a garage, so I was used to work with him since I was very young. It's a very small place, so it pushed me to be quite hands-on and to make things concrete and having this practical touch to say, okay, if you want to do something, is to be able to achieve it and to get some results. And so these are the things that I learned when I was very young, being exposed to different customers and trying to help them with their cars or their winery machinery. So after a couple of years in Alsace, so basically I integrated les arts et métiers in Metz. So I started in Metz in 2006 and I graduated in 2009. So at that time, so I did the 2 first years in Metz. And after I transitioned a little bit, I transitioned for the last year in Angers to have my master. So at that time, basically, when I graduated, I said, okay, what can I do? I have these practical things. I like mechanics. I did a few custom machines with my dad, so maybe I can work in the wine machinery field. So this was something that I was, or agricultural field. So this is something that I was attracted to because of my own experience. And I said, okay, for to go in that way, what I need to do is to get a little bit of electronic skills. So what I focused in my all my degree and my career was really to go into the conception and mechanical engineering part, but on the electronic things, I think that I was lacking a little bit of knowledge there. So I said, okay, let's try to find a company for a couple of years that would give me those skills, and after I could eventually either transition into that or build my own company into. So this is what I had in mind. So in 2000, before I graduated, I put my resume. At that time it was called Monster, I think, online. And a company basically they noticed my resume and they contacted me. And this company is called Amadeus. So what is Amadeus doing? So I will explain it a little bit, but here I will try to give you a small perspective of my career and how did it started. So I started as a technical business analyst, working in payment, reservation, and what we call ticketing systems. So it's an IT company. I will explain you a little bit later. So the goal, basically, we work with airlines, and in the travel industry. So what I was doing at the beginning was really to understand how the system works, working a little bit with financial institutions, and see how we could bridge the travel space with financial items. How we could connect to banks, how do we know that one bank is processing securely some transaction, trying to do some fraud detection mechanism when we try to purchase a ticket or when we are at the airport. So I did that for almost 1 year and a half, and quite quickly, so starting 2010, 2011, I would say, I started to take what we call stream leader role. So what does it mean is that I was responsible for a big stream. So basically working closely with major airlines in the world to be able to bring them on board into the Amadeus ecosystem. So Amadeus is a business-to-business company. So we provide software for airlines like Air France, Lufthansa, and to power their all operations from the booking up to the operations at the airport. So in that type of role as a stream leader, basically what I was used to do is to go to meet the airlines in their environment. So I started with TAM in Brazil. So I went several times to go there to meet them, to understand how their functionalities are working. and to see how we can replicate those functionalities within Amadeus so that TAM could migrate to our systems. So this was, I would say, the first big airline that I started to work with in 2011. And quickly after, once this project was successful, I took the lead on a project with Asiana Airlines, which is in South Korea. So I went to the other side of the globe. And at that point, basically, it was pretty much the same type of activity. I capitalized into my first experience that was around the financial institution. How do we bring them? I started meeting some customers in Latin America that taught me how to deal with customers and how to understand their systems, understanding what were their constraints. And now basically I shifted to a complete different culture, which is in Asia with Asiana. And in 2012, I took the lead for Southwest Airlines, which is located which is based in Dallas, in the US. This was a real major project for the company because Amadeus, as being located in Europe, it's very hard for a company in Europe to come and to penetrate the US market at such a scale. So we tried with a lot of customers, and it was small products, but we never had such a big contract that was signed in the US on the IT part. So it was very, very important for the company. So in 2012, we started that. And in 2014, basically, it was the project was very successful. So it was migrated to our system. It was very good. And at that point, basically, what the company decided on Amadeus side was to say, okay, we have a big customer in the US. So for the time being, the footprint that we have in the US market is not enough to be able to support this customer and have this local presence. So what was decided was basically to build a research and development center in the US. And this is how I came in the US in 2014. First, with my experience that I accumulated over the past 4 to 5 years within Amadeus in France. So I came here with my payment background. I built a team, so I recruited people with some of my colleagues that moved at the same time. And so we came at the beginning, we were roughly between 30 and 50 people. And in 1 year, a little bit more than 1 year, we grew up the site up to a little bit more than 300. So it was really a fast-paced environment. Very interesting because at that point, we come with our experience. We wanted to build things. We had a full freedom in terms of projection and how to recruit people, how to train them, how to make them connected to the Amadeus environment. So I did that for 2 years. In 2000, or a little bit more actually. So, and in 2018, I transitioned, so I took the lead of another team that is currently my position into the inventory space. So now I'm working with airlines and travel agencies to manage their inventory system. And how can you go from Paris to Boston? What are all the different connection possibilities that exist in the world? So it's a different type of problem. And yes, so this gives you basically a perspective of how did I move here. In a nutshell, I started by building my experience in France. I used my company to get transferred in the US through internal opportunities that got open. So I hesitated to put this slide, but I said, okay, as a student, if I had the opportunity to attend such sessions, what do I want to know? here it's to let you know, okay, so you see it's been something like 6 years now that I'm in the US. I might speak fast, so hopefully you are getting it, and you understand me. But I'm still speaking with a French accent. Back in 2009, my scores, I would say, in TOEIC, so you can see it, it's 750. IT system, so what they call system informatique, and I validated it, but it was right at the threshold. So IT was really not something that at that time was for me, and that it's not that it was not for me, because as you have seen now, it's been more than 11 years that I'm working in an English type of field, that every day I'm writing, speaking English, and working in the US now on top of that, and for an IT company, while my IT skills at the beginning were not so obvious to detect. But how did I get there, and what was my choices that I did over the past years? I will try to get you through that. Amadeus started to talk a little bit about it. So it's a company that is not really known from everyone, because we are not what we call business to customer company. It's not like an Apple or a Google or Air France or a Kayak, where basically you, as a consumer or as a traveler, you interact with the company directly. What we are doing actually, so we are working with airlines, with travel agencies, with airports, to provide them solutions to power basically the functionalities that they are looking at. So it's roughly 17,000 people working for Amadeus, dispatched worldwide. 150 nationalities that are working all together. In terms of footprint, due to the nature of the industry, it's important that we have a local presence more or less all over in the world. So we are present in more than 190 countries. So it's very, very diverse, as you can see, and we have the chance to be able to be located more or less everywhere. In terms of revenues, so it's quite big in terms of company. So these are figures from 2018. I think in 2019 it was 625 billions. So it's a company that is growing and having a scale worldwide. Customers that we have, so I introduced them a little bit also in the previously, but we are working with airlines. So we have roughly for more than 400 airlines working with us. We work with airports also, how to provide solutions to the airports. Ground handlers. So ground handlers, if you are not familiar with the term, is for example, when you go to an airport, you have an airline that is currently at the gate, and they need some staff basically to be able to manage all the operations on site. How do you take the bags? How do you load the aircraft? How do you unload the aircraft? How do you move passengers? How do you check in passengers? So the airlines and the airport can rely on external companies that we call ground handlers, and basically we work with all those guys: hotel chain, cruise, rail, insurance. So basically, what we try to have is that we take the overall ecosystem of the travel industry, and we help them basically to power their systems. So who am I working with on a daily basis? So people that I'm interacting with from the US. So this is just a snapshot from the US. But on a daily basis, I'm working with Expedia, with Kayak, with Orbit, that you can see as travel agencies. I'm connecting with American Airlines, with Delta, with United Airlines. So basically how we can access the content of the seats and the inventory of the airlines and how we can distribute them to an Expedia or a Kayak. We are also powering all the IT systems, so from the reservation, inventory, and all the operations for major carriers like a Southwest or an Air Canada. On hotel side, also I have some of my colleagues that work more on the hotel part, and a big customer that we are working on with is Intercontinental. All right. Now, so I spent a little bit of time to explain what I did, but how to move to a new country. So as you can see, so I started my career with, I was based in Antibes, so south of France, and I decided to move to Boston. As you can see, the winter in Boston are not the easiest to get. So how do you decide to leave the sand and the sun to go to winter and cold and have to shovel your car almost every day during winter? So the first thing that you have to do is basically to commit to the idea yourself of moving out. One part that I think I had also at the beginning was, okay, moving internationally with my company, am I gonna miss opportunities? Is it the right choice? Yes, it is. Don't worry, you are not going to miss any opportunity. On the contrary, actually, it opens the door much faster than what you think. I do think that I would not be able to take the lead and to have the opportunity to build a team by myself, face those type of situations, recruit people so young in my career if I would not have taken the step to go internationally. So this is something that that starts by you thinking about, okay, this is really something that I want to do. It does not mean that it has to be right now in that moment. It can take a little bit of time. So as you have seen, for me, I was always interested in moving internationally. I choose to work for a company that has this exposure, and after 4 years or 5 years, basically, I was able to achieve this. Family will ask you, but why do you want to move there? Why do you want to go to a new country? It's still something after 6 years that people ask me about, why are you there? Why do you want to move? And I will always explain them. They understand my choice, and people that are by you and with you, they will always be there for you. So don't stress about those parts. The other part of the sentence is be out there. So when you want to move, and especially at the beginning of your career, if this is a choice that you want to go through and to do, you need to expose yourself through your resume, through different means to turn things showing that you want to be international. So it's a transition more towards spreading the word. So you need to communicate about that. So why? I am a strong believer that networking is an amazing tool when you want to work internationally. Why? Because people that you know, basically, they believe in you, they trust you, and they have their own network. So searching by yourself is very good, and this is something that you need to. If you can rely on other people also using your network to reach out a broader audience, why not doing it? Because people that know you, your network can help to advocate also for you. And so it's very important basically to spread the word, to say that you want to do that, that this is something that in the back of your head, in your mind, in your objective, you want to move internationally. So don't hesitate to rely and to reach out to friends, to family, to your school, to any network basically that you know. You have the alumni program also, but like myself, you see, I'm here to present a little bit my perspective. But you can connect also with us, and we would be more than happy to share our experience and give you a few tips and help if we can. So network and spreading the word, I think it's a very important aspect that you guys need to do. Practice. So you will see in the next slide. So it's not easy to explain that and what is the mission that you see, or what is your personal interest, and how to communicate it. So spreading the word also will help you to clear out your process thought, explaining things in a simple way, and seeing how people are really understanding your personal and professional choice. And so that when you will discuss with eventually a recruiter or someone that is able to give you this opportunity, it will be much more clearer for you because you practiced before with your network, that is your friends and family, where you feel very connected to. So learn about the vocabulary, don't be cranky. So here I try to put two pictures into perspective. So a crankshaft, that is extremely technical vocabulary that in the mechanical or engineering field people know. In IT, nobody knows about what is a crankshaft. So why do I put that? It's extremely important that you are aware of the specific terms that are used in a specific industry. So as you have seen from my personal case, I built my career, my experience, and my expertise through my company, and I was transferred within my company. So this part, I didn't have to face it that much because I came with it. But when I'm recruiting people, basically, I have the choice between multiple profiles, and how an international profile is better than someone that I would recruit locally. I'm looking at different aspects when I'm recruiting people, but one that is very important is that if you are not able to communicate into the language that the other understands based on his industry, his or her industry, it's extremely hard for you to connect with people. So the first thing to do is to say, okay, I'm targeting a few industries, I'm targeting a few companies, I'm targeting a few countries. Let's try to see, okay, what am I good at, what I'm interested in, so that you can communicate efficiently and properly on those aspects. And this starts by knowing a few words and knowing how those words are being used. So this is extremely important. Huh? So why do I reinforce that? Because at some point you will have interviews, and you will need to discuss with recruiter that might push you because they want to see if you're a good profile or if you're a good fit for the company. So this exercise by default can be a little bit stressful. It's not easy because it's a competition. Huh? So having the stress of the competition and seeing this, and on top of that, not being sure about how to express yourself, it's it can be a little bit overwhelming. So that's why take the time with your network, with your friends, with your family, with people that you might connect with to practice and to say, okay, I want to express that. Do a little bit of research for yourself. It's something that is very, very important, and I think it can be a good tip for you to take back home. So yes, cultural differences. How to transition to that. So vocabulary, how to connect to people. So this is something that I think is important for you to understand. And I put this picture because it's something that I think is very true, and that I faced when I moved here in the US in 2014. Even if it is a Western culture and you can see it as quite similar to Europe, so people have pretty much the same way of living, it's the same food, you have access to the same level of opportunities, and it's open more or less at the same level. Still, the way that people interact with each other is completely different, and it's how I see it is this dilemma. Basically, in France or in Europe, you could see it as people as coconuts. So it's quite hard on the shell, and after it's softer. So when you discuss with people and when you try to build long-term relationship with people, it's harder to connect with people. But once you're really connected with them, you really build long-term relationships and trust, and this is something that is very strong. But at the beginning, it's very, very hard to connect with people. On the contrary, here in the US, it's I see it more as a pitch. When you see people, it's very easy to connect with them at work or outside in a bar. People are very open, sharing about also personal information that by default or with someone that we don't know, me as a French guy, I would not share by default because it's not in my nature. I didn't grow up with this model. While here, people share personal things much easier with strangers. So it's very soft in the outside, but after to really build long-term relationship and having close people around you, it takes more time and it's a little bit harder. So these are things that you need to be aware of, and whatever culture you are exposed to, they have different way and different social interactions. Don't be afraid at the beginning, say, oh, why is this person saying this? Why is he answering that way? It might not be you, it is just that you have cultural differences in this country that as a foreigner, basically coming here, you need to adapt and understand. One other aspect that I really enjoy is so I come with this European and French way of debating, having exchanges, and in the US it's a little bit different. So I put in perspective those two pictures from the French Revolution and Nike with their advertisement, Just Do It, because I think it really represents very, very well both cultures. In Europe, usually a good meeting, and especially when you work with different people or in big companies, you feel successful when you come to a meeting, when you exchange those ideas, you debate it, you say, okay, this is the way that I see that things should be built. This is the thing that I think we should do. This is how I I would do it, and you would debate with your colleagues and debate and debate. So you would do a lot of meeting to come to a kind of consensus all together. While in the US, it's really a culture of make it happen. So it's much more concrete, and a good meeting, I would say, or a good outcome is a decision has been made, and there is an action, a concrete action that can be made out of it. So this is something that we really see, and that in Europe I do see it as a much more analytical aspect rather than in the US. It's based on actions, and through my work I see it in a daily basis because with the way that I was trained was to understand the overall processes. Even when I was at school in Les Arts, when we were having some design modules, so we had to rethink full processes. We had to come up from a whiteboard completely clean. We had to build things and invent things from scratch. So we had to think about all the different pieces, all the different use cases that could come up through the lifetime and find solutions for everything. Rather than in the US, the people actually are being trained is, okay, take iterative steps and make sure that at the end of each iterative steps, you have something concrete and make it evolve. And basically, having those both those cultures is extremely interesting because we have this analytical approach and this action approach that are combined together, and it's, to my point of view, extremely interesting and powerful when you have the chance to manage people in those configurations. So the Tour de France. So this is a transition a little bit to my team and what do I have and why do I hire a lot of profiles. So I have a mixed team of software engineers, data scientists, and business analysts. It's highly international profiles. We are also working in an international environment because I have some of my colleagues that are in India, some of my colleagues that are in Bangkok in Thailand, others that are in Australia, in Japan, in France, in Germany, in the UK. So we are trying to build our own way, a team that is also very international and that has this cultural mix. So as you can see, this is a part of my team that was trying to imitate a little bit our own Tour de France. But basically, I have high international profiles also in my team. So not only because we are exposed to international culture, but also because in the US, there is a strong lack in the engineering field. So based on all the demand that we have from the different companies, we don't have enough people trained with the right skills here. So it means that sometimes we need to transfer people that have specialized knowledge, or sometimes we need to hire also people that have these international profiles. So me, as a manager, as a recruiter, how and why do I hire international candidates for either full-time positions or for internships? So the first thing that it demonstrates to me is that you, as a candidate, basically, you show your personal strengths by going out of your comfort zone. Because this is not something that is easy. It's something that is very powerful and very entertaining, basically, to see what's outside your country. But from a company standpoint, also, it shows that you are willing to see something that is outside your comfort zone and that you are determined and committed to move. Specialized knowledge. This is one of the reasons also that I can use to hire people internationally. I'm not finding the right knowledge in my local market. So here in the US, me being localized in Boston, can I find candidates that meet what I need? Yes or no? If no, okay, I need to check with my human resources counterparts. Say, okay, guys, we need to open up the door. I need to get those people. I need to have those type of profiles in because I have those projects coming in, and I need these skills. So this is why it's very important that you know how to communicate efficiently and how the vocabulary and the, I would say, specialized terms that are used in industry, you are familiar with them so that you can communicate them efficiently during an interview, because this might be aspects that I will be looking at as a recruiter. Immigration. So yes, so I didn't put a dedicated slide on immigration. I put it in red compared to blue in this slide for a specific reason, because it's not something to hide. It can be a struggle. It can be a struggle for you. It can be a struggle for the company. If you apply directly from a company, but it's not something that is impossible. A lot of people move in. In the US especially, it's extremely international. You have such a diverse culture that it's things that people are used to deal with in a daily basis. But there are a few things and a few techniques that you need to be aware of. So it's important that when you want to move to a new country, try to do a little bit of your own research to see what are the possible ways of working there. So with your own nationality, is there any restriction? And if yes, basically, what are the type of visas that are available? Myself, I moved with what we call an L1 visa. So it was an L1B, which is an expertise transfer visa. So within the company, basically, I was sponsored by Amadeus and my company to go into the US. So they did this visa for me. There are other ways to move. So my wife, for example, she moved in the US with another type of visa that is tied to research, which is a F-type visa. So it means that she found an institution and she's doing some research. So this is one aspect also that you can look at, is to say, okay, maybe my interest is really to move to a new country, not really to work there, but to be exposed to another culture. I like this field. Maybe I can find some institution that do research in my area of expertise, in my area of interest. So this is something that I can be looking at. People that I am recruiting, a lot of them. So I have Indian people, people from the US, from Thailand, from China, from France. Some of them came doing also master. So they came in doing a specific training, and this gives them access to a kind of what we call OPT visa that gives the opportunity to companies to recruit people for a period of time, 1 or 2 years after they are graduated, to work with them. And after, we would transition basically those profile to other type of visa, that like an H-1B or something like that. Most of the time, my network reach out to me. So this is to close the loop on the other item that I talked to you earlier, spreading the word. Most of the time for international profiles, people that I trust, part of my network, say, hey, I know that person, can you have a look? Or I know that I have a specialized knowledge. I would reach out to my network within my company to say, okay, I need this type of profile. Do you know someone? Maybe I know someone from my past experience when I was based there, that I would reach out to personally, saying, okay, I have this position. Are you interested in? This is how I moved in the US. I started by discussing with my manager at that time, and I'm interested in moving internationally. Do you see any position open or something, any opportunity? And at that time, there was nothing. 6 months later, I was working for someone else. This manager basically reached out to me to say, hey, I know that you are interested. We have this opportunity now. Are you still interested? And I say, okay, let's go. And a couple of months later, I was here. So this is really important that you spread the word, that you connect to your network, and this will really, really definitely help you to get you where you want to be. Quickly, you are ready, because basically a lot of my friends from school are also working internationally in complete different fields. So the degree that I got from Les Arts et Métiers gave me really all the tools to start locally in Europe and also internationally. So definitely, I would strongly recommend it to anyone that asks me about Les Arts. Overall, this is just to give you a few pictures, because it's an amazing social experience and opportunity that I hope you will have. A few pictures of people that I'm working with, or that of few friends that I'm seeing on a daily basis. Just one point, you can see, for example, Nicolas on the bottom right. That is one of the interns that came basically for 6 months in my company, and he did a dual internship, so 3 months in France, 3 months in the US. So there are some opportunities that can be achieved like that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just I would say my only regret would be that I didn't start it earlier in my career. So I really invite you to join this journey internationally. It's really an amazing opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your professional experiences with us, as well as giving us a look into really the American work environment, as well as how to apply to jobs or internships in the US. I have maybe one or two questions, if I may, before I open up to students. My first question, as an English teacher, I'm always interested to know about how professionals learn English, especially you talked about your journey from NSAM, where you struggled a little bit in English, and then going to the US, where you speak English every day and you have a wide vocabulary in your specialized field. Is there any piece of advice, anything that you did that really helped you develop your English as a professional in a specific field?
Yeah. So what I would say, so my company by nature is exposing people to, and forcing people basically to communicate in English, because this is a way that, or a common language that we have with everyone in the world. So I think that this first part is something that pushed me to do that. The other part in the US, so before coming, I started to listen to a few podcasts in the field to train my ear, also on those aspects. But the best way, but you have seen, I was not very committed, I would say, to English, and it was not I was not feeling very comfortable. But the only thing is to try and to get it. So one thing that is sure is that nobody is gonna judge you. I do not have a perfect English even now, and just to speak, and people will understand you. And to speak. Try to find people to speak with. Listen to train your ear, and this is the thing that that helped me.
Okay, great. So practice and try to use it in your professional life.
Yeah.
Use it at work. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then,
After, of course, while once you are in once you move to the country, it's completely different because you have no choice. I mean, you are here. If you need to live, you need to go shopping, you need to understand what is a can, you need to find bean. I mean, you need. It's a new way of living, and as you get exposed to it every day, you meet people also here locally. This is really, I think, when I moved here, this is where my level bumped compared to being in France.
okay. So my second question is really focused in the professional sphere, specifically in your background of IT, software engineering. For students that are interested in that field, do you have any suggestions for resources that they should be looking at, reading, in order to keep a pace with the developments in the field, or new how can I say, new movements in your field?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few for IT and people. So I started as a business analyst, but I'm also recruiting engineer, software engineers, or data scientist. What is important as while you will enter into the professional life and where it's hard is to understand which position you would be really looking at, and which one you think you would feel fulfilled. And so based on that, what I would recommend is first to look at a few companies, a few positions that you know that you would be interested in, and read the different job description that they have. So inside, you will have a few insights that they will give around what are the minimal requirements that they have, and they would describe also which type of profile they would be looking at. So this will help you to build your resume. And as more specifically to the IT field, people can, I would say, you can do some personal projects that you need to put into perspective and that you need to showcase, because your professional experience you are constructing it. So you need basically to showcase based on your project, either academic project or side projects that you do by yourself to train or to understand the field. Is something that is important to show. So see a little bit what are the main trends. So for example, in IT, if you know Python, if you know R, if you know some SQL, C++, Java, some kind of IT languages can really help for you to enter the field.
Okay, great. Well, I would love to keep on asking you questions, but I want to give the students also a chance to ask you their questions. So I'd like to open it up to students now. For those of you who have questions, if you can click on the hand button, so to raise your hand, and then I will have you ask your question. And it would be great if you can introduce yourself as well and turn on your camera so that Patrick can see who he's talking to. Okay. Yes, Pierre, go ahead.
Sorry, my camera doesn't work.
Okay.
But good afternoon. I just want to know what do you like most in your work?
What do I like most? Oh, that's a hard question. No, so what I have is that so I'm exposed to multiple profiles. So I need to have a deep expertise into multiple fields. So I see myself as a kind of fireman and coach. So basically, all my team is working on multiple projects. So I need to be able to guide them and to mentor them to define the right goals for them and to project themselves in a mid-long term. So this is one thing that I really enjoy, is to bring people together and having people around me and bringing them towards a common goal. So it's not something that is easy, because first you need to understand your goal, and you need to understand that people have their own interest and they have some wishes. So making sense of individual towards building a group, it's something that I really enjoy, and having the chance to do that in a very international culture that has a very fast pace. So when you work with a Kayak, when you work with an Expedia, they have really a huge traffic, so they have high demand in terms of expectations from you as a provider. So we are providing services for them. So if we fail, their company fail, because they cannot power basically what they sell to people. So we have a huge responsibility towards them. We manage airports. So I mean, if we mess up with airports, people cannot board. It's a mess at the airport. We block everything. So we have a huge responsibility towards customers, towards travelers. And understanding that, making sure that people basically try to get the best out of them, it's something that I really enjoy, and how to make sense out of it and to construct that. It's that piece that I really enjoy. I started more on the technical part to really break down system and how do you make sense out of a system. So more on the expertise path. And now I choose a path that is more towards combining people and systems to see how you can make sense out of all of that.
Great. Okay, let's have another student question. What else would you like to know? Great, yes, Alex, go ahead.
I think you're still in mute, Alex.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah,
perfect.
great.
Okay. So hello, I'm Alex, first year student at the ENSAM. I would underline that the fact to know the specific vocabulary of a job is very essential because of the difference between software engineers and data scientists. And I have a question concerning programming language. So have you already worked for a corporate who needs a really specific programming language, or they all need a kind of a mainstream programming language like Python, Java?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I have both software engineers and data scientists in my team that are reporting to me. And I'm more on the backend side of the processes. So it's mostly C, C++, Java, Python. So it's more backend oriented, but different companies, depending on their business, have different needs. And what is interesting, I would say, especially if you start your career, is to be exposed to all the different chain and the different life cycle of the software engineering, starting with front-end development that is completely different than working on the back-end side. So taking a little bit of everything, so that we know that in any case we are recruiting young profile. We are not expecting to get someone that is expert in a field, because we are going to build this expertise. When a company is recruiting someone fresh out of school, they are betting on the potential that you have. They are not betting on what you know. They know that, so they rely on your training. So they know that the school gives you the right tool because you succeeded in that. What they will be looking at is to see how you can put that into practice and what is your capability to learn and to make, because in any case, it will be a specialized, you will work for a company, it will be a specialized job because this is what they need. So knowing those aspects and how basically you can combine both, it's something that that is important. So the first thing I would say is to know a little bit what you are more interested in as an individual. If it's more front-end development because you like building website, a mobile app, or those kind of things, or if it's more back-end processes, which is more, I would say, system-oriented architecture, handling more on a database standpoint, big volume of data with data science that can be applied on it, data processing, mining, and making data solving problems aspects that you want to address. So it's really, I would say at the beginning, and especially here you are in your first year, I think it's important that if this is a field that you feel interested in, take the opportunity to try different ones. So you have internships, you have your, as a side project, you can say, okay, now I'm going to try for a couple of weeks front-end development. I'm going to try a couple of weeks data science, some Python scripting, and this will give you also a taste of what you enjoy. As soon as you feel that it's interesting, it will be easy because it's three things that will help you to innovate. It's play, passion, and purpose. So as soon as you start playing with things, you feel interested by the area, and you find a purpose out of it, you will thrive. So give you the chance to try different things. There are things that you say, oh no, this is not for me. There are others you say, ah, this is cool. And the one that you see, ah, this is cool, but I'm gonna go in it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, so I think that's a great place to end our talk today. I want to thank you again so much, Patrick, for sharing your experiences with us and all your advice that you have. The students really appreciate being able to talk to Gadzar professionals. So we really appreciate that. And I think the students can say thank you as well, if all of those who have microphones.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
So yeah, I hope that you had a good perspective of who am I and how it is to work from outside.